This lesson will try to begin 24 School Street model directly in SketchUp. Again, whenever doing things that require measurement with some degree of precision, change camera to parallel projection. Go to a plan view. Insert, import. The import Cad Drawing. We'll start with a drawing file. We just imported the default settings. It imported it as a group. Whenever you import into SketchUp, it loses any text information, which is sometimes a disadvantage. So what's our strategy here? Well, this is a grid-based model, however irregular that grid might be. So I think that the first thing we would want let me pause this. Unlike Revit, where you can use grid lines to place column components and align them at the intersections of this grid, let's start by defining those components straight away. So grid lines do not really align at the center of circular objects, so we're going to have to improvise. Let's say this is a 3-foot diameter column. I'm going to type in 16 inches as the radius for this. And create a column component from it. Go to a 3D view. Push it to a height of 16, no, sorry, 28 feet, I think. Triple click, make it a component, column, bold, building. So we want to copy this. Trying to snap to the center point. So we're going to have to live with a little bit of imperfection of these grid lines not lining up perfectly at the centers of these columns. So I'm just copying them to the intersections anyway. From their center. We can adjust them later. Intersection. These square columns, but I'm going to use the round column for now as a proxy, and then we'll replace them. Because these are all components, any geometry we build in addition to this is not going to snap to it. Now I'm making an inference that I should not have made before importing an elevation drawing. That is, what the height of these columns ought to be. We'll need a different column for these objects, which has more of a diameter of, let's see what this diameter is. I think this is more of a 5-foot diameter. I'm going to say 2.5 feet radius. Send that to a height of 28 feet and have it be one of the massive Doric columns at the front of it. Triple click. Make it a component. 5-foot diameter old column. We need 4 of those. I'm just going to move copies of that. Center with this. Move another copy of it. Let's continue with columnar elements. SketchUp has a little more flexibility in defining these things that are not quite circular columns, but some kind of 2 half rounds in between. So I'm going to try to draw those shapes. Let's see if we modify the I want to arrive at, sort of the midpoint of that. So let's try to trick it. By drawing diagonal. Drawing diagonals is always a great way of bisecting things. So presumably if I draw from that point, it's not on the right axis. Would it be on the right axis? Maybe it is. I don't think that gives us... Let's see what happens if we draw a circle from what we perceive to be the center. You know what? That's going to be good enough. I'm going to draw a line to try to divide this. Getting a bit more complicated than I wanted it to be. So, I'm just going to do a bunch of undos and model this as a column, a round column. I'm trying to find the center for it, and let's just call it let's group this geometry so we don't stick to what we draw. Do a circle from that center to there. So that's more massive than it needs to be, but at least we have the overall, yeah. Push it to a height of 28 feet. These may not be the correct heights at this point, but we are using these heights provisionally and we can modify them afterwards. Make component modern exterior column. Then we need copies of those where? At the intersections. What I'm going to do is modify this drawing. Let's create a layer for it. AutoCAD underlay. Take this object, right click, enter the info, and move it to that layer. AutoCAD underlay. Let's change view, component, edit, hide rest model. So as we modify this, all I'm going to do is modify this drawing so that I have a center intersection. It's creating faces, but it doesn't really matter to me at this point. I just need a point to snap to as a center point for these columns that I've created, even if they're provisional. So we have centers. The centers are just the intersections of these lines that I'm drawing. Rather boring, but essential steps in modeling. You know, you have to make some decisions about, okay, so now when I close this component, all I've drawn just now is part of the AutoCAD drawing. It just gives me a place to move, copy these guys. I'm going to select the center point, tap my Control key, wait for VDR to let go of my copy there. Move copy that to there. Move copy that one from there to there. Move copy that one from there to there. Move copy that one to that center. Move copy that one. Finally. Okay. So what have I done so far? I've created my understructure for the elements that occur on a column. Because of what I know about the model, I'm also going to add this bearing wall element. Which is the wall on which the beams sit that has this shape. So I'm going to model that with lines. Well, I'm just going to outline the shape of it because it's contained there. And I'm going to extrude that to a height of 28 feet. Whoops. .28 feet. Okay, so in actuality, these columns are way higher than 28. 28 feet is only to that level. The massive columns that I've modeled, these are those, And they may not correspond to the 28-foot level because they're in the old building. But I've modeled that stuff provisionally. Let's create a layer for columns. And there's a whole lot of AutoCAD layers that I'm going to lose. So I'm selecting all the AutoCAD layers, delete layer, move them to the default layer, so that all I'm left with is my AutoCAD underlay on which that drawing lives. So I can turn that off and on. Let's turn it off for now. And then I'm going to select all the rest of this except triple click. Let's make that a component. Make component. Load bearing wall assembly. Let's make a layer for that. Load walls. Let's take that and put it on load bearing walls. Turn off the visibility of that. Everything else is going to go to columns. And columns is off. So we see nothing right now. There's the AutoCAD underlay. There are my columns. There's my load bearing wall. We have exterior walls that we haven't modeled, a curtain wall that we haven't modeled, other perimeter walls that are that we have not yet modeled, but we're proceeding hierarchically through this. So let's turn off load-bearing walls and columns and think about what else we have here that we could model. I think I'm going to want to define a perimeter wall for this old system. Let's start somewhere. Most important thing is just to start. I'm drawing straight through all of this as I did in Revit. I'm ignoring the little crenellations and articulation might be part of the building facade. Right? Oh, I should have gone past that. Should have gone past that point. So there. Boy, a lot of made a mistake. Missed that return Start drawing there to there. I'm snapping to the green axis. Okay, so I think I'm defining inside face of wall. It's really coming out. So turn off Cad underlay. You can see what I've drawn that I don't need. Probably didn't want to draw all that, so I'm gonna just gonna move to that endpoint, erase these lines. So I have a shape, it's rather irregular and probably incorrect, but it's provisionally, there's a surface that I can extrude to 28 feet. And I can triple click it, make it a group. Create a layer called Walls Exterior 1 and move that group to that layer. So what have I designed so far? Walls Exterior 1, columns, load-bearing wall. The AutoCAD underlay is underneath all this, but you can start to see that I'm starting to define the shape of the building. So if I'm working purely in SketchUp, this would be a place to begin. Notice that these elements are not sticking to geometry I created because I was careful to group everything and put it in layers. In lesson 2, we'll continue with this one.